and players smiling.
But Michael Jordan is not only the best basketball player, but he's the most exciting basketball player to ever play.
Tatum fires away, pumps it in, 51 for Jason Tatum.
The Big Three NBA podcast is powered by Prize Picks and the Game Time app.
Hey everyone, welcome into this episode of the Big Three NBA podcast. Your usual crew is here: Sherrod Blakely, Gary Washburn. I'm Kwani Lunis, and as you can see, we have one of the three of us who is doing the most right now. Sherrod, where are you?
I'm going back to Cali. I am in Gary's home state of California, spending some time with the fam and trying to enjoy a little bit of this good weather. The trip did not get off to the best of starts, seeing as though there was a power outage out by the LAX airport. Well, all good, because whatever they were lacking in power on that day, I'm juiced up right now. So we're ready to roll. We're ready to get this thing going. Let's go. Well, I'm like Porzingis. I'm ready.
Well, thank you for that. On that note, we'll just get right into the Celtics because I'm sure Gary's already over it like I am. We are in colder weather, but Kristaps Porzingis, you mentioned, he is back. He has returned 16.6 rebounds in 23 minutes. Let's start off with a game of pick and roll. We haven't played in a while. Kristaps Porzingis hasn't been in the game for a while. So bigger surprise was whether how he played or the fact that he played at all. Which one do you pick and why are you rolling with it?
My man, Gary. Get us going, Gary. My man.
Yeah, I'm a little blinded by the sun and the shades and all that.
It's all good.
The Hollywood lifestyle.
That's what stars do. They're blinding. But keep going.
Anyway, I was surprised that he played, to be honest with you, because I thought that they would hold him out for another week or two, maybe. It would go into December. But, you can just tell the workouts that he was getting comfortable. He was doing more. He was going up and down the floor. He was shooting, all the stuff that you usually see him do. But I thought, okay, they might hold him back till maybe after the play-in tournament's over, at the play-in in-season tournament, maybe give him another couple of weeks just to make sure he's completely 100%. But if he said he's been ready for almost a month, then obviously he healed fast from this injury. They gave him enough time, and he was ready to go. So I was more surprised that he played because I just thought, okay, they'll maybe give him some time off after Thanksgiving, maybe during the in-season tournament, something like that, if they make the quarterfinals. But I did not anticipate November 25th on my bingo card.
No, I get that, but I was more surprised at how he played, and here's why. This is probably the worst he's going to play all season long. And the fact that he can go out there and get you 16 points, 6 boards in less than 25 minutes, and really just not look great, and yet he's still being very productive, very impactful. I was very surprised at how he played because, again, with that kind of layoff, you just don't really know what you're getting, but whatever it is, it's not going to be the best version of that player. And he put up big numbers. I thought he was an impact player in every sense of the word for the Celtics. And obviously, he's going to play better. And I think if you're the Celtics, that's the silver lining that you cannot ignore. The fact that he was able to help you basically blow out a pretty decent Clippers team and do so without playing a great game in the process. When your third option, which is essentially what Porzingis is, plays that particularly impactful and he does not play well, that means things are only going to get better. And for the rest of the league, that's kind of scary when you think about this Celtics team who now, with their starting 5 back on the floor, are only going to get better in time.
You mentioned the rest of the league, but looking at the Celtics roster in particular, what does that mean for the rest of their big man rotation?
Some guys, it's like musical chairs. Somebody ain't going to get a seat at the table. And they've got a few guys that are certainly in that mix. You look at Luke Cornett, obviously. You look at Keita, and then Xavier Tillman. One of those 3 guys is not going to play. And it's, again, who that will be remains to be seen. I've got some ideas on who I don't think is going to see action going forward, but I would love to hear what my homeboy, Mr. Gary Washburn, thinks about who he doesn't think is going to play and why.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, last night, no Horford, no Cornette. So Joe took a chance on Neemias Queta, who was coming back from a DNP against Minnesota, I believe. And He played well, 4 block shots, ran the floor, was a rim protector, just probably the best we've seen Keita maybe this season. And then Tillman got the garbage time minutes when the game was a blowout and the game was essentially over. So to me, I think he's going to mix and match. There's going to be some Kornet, there's going to be some Keita. I think everybody's going to have to get used to some games not playing and then be thrown into the fire and play, and that means the other 3 bigs. And then Horford's going to be the main backup. But as you guys said, I think it's going to be a combination. It's going to be not everybody's going to be happy out of this, as Sherrod said. There's going to be guys get DNPs. I think probably Tillman will be the guy who will play the least. And then I think they like Kornet, and they're trying to like Keita, but Keita has struggled of late, maybe on defense. He was struggling. He was struggling in his matchups. So they have to be, they want to be precise as possible. So if Keita is struggling, they're not gonna give him a chance to just make it up. He's gonna have to play. So he's gonna have to sit. So to me, I think it's gonna be a combination of guys who don't play. Kornet's gonna get some minutes. Horford's gonna be the main guy, obviously. And they're not. And remember, no back-to-backs for Porzingis, no back-to-backs for Horford. So essentially, guys are gonna get a chance to play because some of those guys are gonna have days off.
So it sounds like you don't really have an odd man out for sure.
I'm gonna go with an odd man out though. Since Gary, I tried to bounce the ball at Gary for the layup, but
he's leaving space for the next man.
Gary just swinging the ball back up top. So I got
odd man out, Sherrod.
That's okay. Listen, Tillman's gonna be the odd man out. He's going to play sparingly, but of all those guys that we're talking about, he's the guy that's going to play the least. And I'm going to tell you why. Because when you have Al Horford now in that reserve role, what Tillman brings to the table isn't really all that valuable because it's similar to Al, but not as great. And when you look at the way that they've used Keita, it's clear that they are trying to develop Keita to be their starting center of the future. I don't think there's any question about that. Or at a minimum, be one of their key reserves coming off the bench. And when you look at what Porzingis brings to the table, you look at what Al Horford does consistently, and you're looking at who's going to be your third center, I think you almost have to lean a little bit more towards Keita than Luke. They're going to split those minutes, certainly, but I think Keita is going to wind up with the lion's share of those minutes because the Celtics, I think they're built in a way where they understand that as long as we have Porzingis healthy to start games and we can bring Al Horford off the bench, we then our third center needs to be someone that we're developing. And Luke Kornet, bless his heart, he does what he does. And he does help this team, and he does have value. But when you start looking at what Keita brings to the table, when you start looking at some of the things that he has shown glimpses of being able to do, obviously not as consistently as he or the Celtics would want, it's clear that that's a player whose upside is much greater than that of Luke Kornet. And when you're a championship team, the way the Celtics are built, you've got the kind of contracts that all their players have for the most part. You're going to need to have some young talent that you can develop. And I don't care how much, watching Al do his thing and watching Porzingis do his thing may help you. The biggest benefit that players have in terms of getting better is getting out there on the floor. And I think the Celtics understand that. I think they appreciate that. And I think that's one of the reasons why Keita, more than Luke, is going to get the lion's share of those minutes if you're talking about who's going to be the Celtics' third center at this point. So speaking of, stuff that will benefit the Celtics, one of the things that will benefit you is one of our good friends and partners, Prize Picks, which is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win. You hear that, Gary? You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. It's the best way to win real money this basketball season. Look at which players are going off, which players aren't. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long. Now, the 2 picks that I've gone with this week, I'm going to take Victor Wembanyama to tally at 39.5 points more in terms of points, rebounds, and assists. And I'm taking Gary's good friend in Milwaukee, Brook Lopez, to tally more than 6.5 rebounds and assists against Miami. And for those out there, if you want to get in, here's what you got to do. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. And now, speaking of running our game, I'm running the game right back to Kwani to take over and keep us moving.
That sounds good.
This sunshine is getting me fired up, Gary.
We should question why Gary is friends with Brook Lopez, but maybe we'll just move on from that. How did he become friends with him?
That's just Gary's boy. Gary
everyone is your boy, Gary.
Everyone is. Well, that's the point. Everyone is Gary's boy. Everyone loves Gary.
Most people.
Wow.
All right, back to basketball.
No shade.
Statement stretch here for the Celtics. They beat Minnesota. They beat the Clippers, both quality teams out west, but they're off to a slow start. So, overall, they're still, opponents that could be worthy eventually of a playoff. But looking forward for the Celtics, does this enhance your view of the team overall, or do you still see them in the same light as you did before?
What do you think, Gary?
I think obviously they're better with Porzingis. They're a championship caliber team. Mm-hmm. They have a lot of great qualities, a lot of great elements. And they said they made 12 3-pointers in the second quarter, 51 points. And they beat a good Clippers team. The Clippers team had just beaten Philadelphia by 26 the night before. Both teams coming off a back-to-back. The Celtics were just prepared. The first quarter, they edged up a little bit, 27-20, but that second quarter, they just completely took the game away from the Clippers. And, the Clippers, you can't be, like they're not healthy. Obviously, Kawhi's out, but they still got Harden. They still got no Norman Powell either. I thought that was a factor because he's having a real career year. But I just thought the Celtics just dismantled them, and the Clippers could not stop the Celtics 3-point shooting. So I think this elevates the Celtics, the number one team in the NBA. Now Cleveland is 17-1. We'll see what happens Sunday. That'll be a very interesting game when Boston goes to Cleveland. There'll be no excuses, no back-to-back, so you should have a full, healthy Celtic roster. We'll see if Cleveland's completely healthy for that game, but that should be an interesting game, especially coming out that Friday game, that key Friday game, the in-season tournament game against Chicago. The Celtics, if they win and Cleveland beats Atlanta, which they should, then you're talking about the Celtics advancing winning the group and advancing to the quarterfinals. Mm-hmm. So if you're if you're the Celtics, I just think you got to feel great about the position you're in. You went 14-3 without Porzingis. You won some close games, but now your rim protection's back. Another guy could space the floor. Another matchup nightmare. So I just think, this elevates them to the number one team in the NBA. And now it's just managing the rest of the season, managing the health of Porzingis, managing the health of Horford, making sure those guys get to the finish line to the playoffs completely healthy and ready to go. Now, will that cost you the number one seed? Maybe, maybe not. I think right now their focus should be on playing the best basketball they could be, trying to win every game. But, there's going to be games that without Porzingis or Horford, they're going to be at a disadvantage here and there. But just try to get to the finish line with both of those guys healthy and have a fully healthy roster for the season. Cleveland obviously is a major factor. We'll see if the Knicks are coming. Orlando's playing well even without Banchero. But I still think the Celtics, with Oklahoma City kind of slipping up here and there, are still the number one team. Now, they had some slip-ups. The Golden State game, the Atlanta game is the one that kind of bothers, I'm sure, people the most. But they've won 6 in a row. We'll see what they do Sunday against Cleveland. But for now, they are the number one team.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that number one team assessment. But the one thing that I think has to be mentioned that I don't know if most people are really paying as much attention to as possible is, and I'm just straight no chaser, keep it real. The Eastern Conference for the most part has sucked this year. Some teams are starting to get right now and play better basketball, but for the most part, it has been a very underwhelming Eastern Conference from top to bottom for the most part. And so when you look at the success that the Celtics have had, you have to keep that in perspective. And I think one of the knocks against the Celtics, if you could find any up to this point, was they're beating the snot out of these teams in the East, but So what? What does that mean? What can they do against some of the average to maybe a slightly above average teams out west? And what we've discovered was that they're pretty damn good against anyone and everyone that they face. I thought these two games against Minnesota and the Clippers were really good litmus tests to see whether the Celtics team that we're seeing dismantle all these teams in the Eastern Conference, whether that was a transferable skill or whether that was just something that was simply allocated towards teams in the East. So for me, their success of late against a couple of Western Conference teams who many believe will be in the mix to, at a minimum, get out of the first round of the playoffs, it was a good litmus test to see where they stack up against teams outside of the Eastern Conference. And they shine brightly. I mean, Minnesota, that's always been a tough game. You look back at the two games last year, both of those came down to the wire. So it wasn't a surprise, even as the Celtics pulled away significantly in the game the other night, that it became a down to the wire, photo finish at the end. That's just how those teams are built now. So for the Celtics, I thought it was really good that they were able to win those games and win them against, again, quality teams, the kind of teams that as you make your journey through the Eastern Conference and hopefully to the NBA Finals, the kind of quality victories that are going to stack up favorably. And the one thing you have to also keep in mind is with the Celtics, they're doing this while reintegrating one of the core pieces of their team. And the one thing that when you talk to players, not just on the Celtics roster, but pretty much any player on a team where you have a lot of guys who are back, is they say that, yeah, we may have all the same pieces, but it's a different season. Guys have different roles, and we still have to adjust to what those roles are. You look at the Celtics, Porzingis, who, again, had a really good first game, but how is the emergence of Peyton Pritchard, for example, going to impact Porzingis in terms of shots taken? Because someone's got to get someone is going to lose some shots because of the amount of shots that Pritchard is taking now, and just understandably so. He's killing it. He's went from a guy that a year ago was just one of the cogs that you hope could just keep the ship afloat when he came into the game to now he's one of the better six men in the NBA. And so how is that transition going to be for the Celtics? And will it impact winning? Will it impact, or will it just be an impact on the stat sheet? So those are the kind of things that when you look at the Celtics team and you look at them moving forward, beating teams like the Clippers, beating teams like Minnesota, it has to be part of the blueprint for success, because no matter who they play in the Eastern Conference, it's pretty clear they're going to be the favorite. There are some teams that you can make a case for that could give the Celtics some problems and make things a little bit sticky, make it a little challenging for them. But they have shown early on that they have the ability to step up and deliver whenever game time is ready to be played. So, and on that note, speaking of game time, let's talk a little bit about our good friends at Game Time and using the Game Time app. For those of us who want to watch our favorite college or pro teams play and don't want to mortgage the family home to do so, Game Time has you covered with great ticket prices on all types of sporting events as well as concerts. When I'm thinking about going to a football game, like all of us are, because all of our college teams are now officially bowl eligible. Way to go, Cal Cubbies. Way to go to get bowl eligible.
Yo, ACC.
ACC, welcome to the club. But it's important that, you get a chance to see your teams play. And certainly you want to do that and not have to cost a ton of money. Like, for instance, my guy, Gary, his Cal, I call him the Cal Cubbies, the Cal Bears.
Bears.
They're the Bears. They're the Bears. They're not the Cubbies.
And we are not the Pigeons.
Exactly. But they're eligible, and they can really bolster their chances with a really good win at SMU this weekend. And if Gary wanted to, let's say, jet down to Dallas for the game this weekend, and, with Game Time, he can do that and get tickets for as little as $20. The tickets through Game Time app are super affordable, offering great tickets at rock bottom prices. And again, for you, Kwani, and your BC Eagles,
terrible.
Me and my guy Keith Pompey of the Philadelphia Inquirer, we were actually talking about that game this weekend between his alma mater, Pittsburgh, and your school, BC. They're going to be in Chestnut Hill. And coming in, if he decided he wanted to roll into Chestnut Hill, he could get in for tickets as little as $5. That's
and he could stay at your house and save some money.
And he could stay at Kwani's place and save some money. Exactly. Just what you said. Stay at your place and save some money. You can get damn near 2 tickets for the price of 1 latte to go to that game if you keep it at 100. And so, again, one of the really cool things about the Game Time app is the all-in pricing that shows you the total price before you get to the checkout. And you get a panoramic view of the seats that you choose before you buy, which takes a lot of the guesswork and uncertainty out of getting a ticket with a good sight line. Not sure, are you going to be standing between a pole, or are you going to be in the middle of nowhere? Game Time app and their panoramic view takes care of all that. All you have to do is download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, create an account, and use the code CLNS for $20 off. Terms apply. What time is it? Game time. Now, Kwani, finish this off.
Well done. Before we wrap up, let's go around the league very quickly. You mentioned the Western Conference, and I'm sure you saw this coming, but Houston, we may have a problem. The Rockets sitting at number 3 in the Western Conference right now, but also 12-6 overall, looking like a really solid team. What do you two think about Houston right now?
I tell you right now, Ime Udoka may get my vote for Coach of the Year at this point, because there is no way in the world, as great as Golden State has been, you still have on your roster one of the all-time great players in NBA history, is Steph Curry. So the fact that they've been able to elevate themselves is not a total wow. There's no way they could do that. You look at this Houston team, there is not a single player that you can look at and say that's a face of the franchise guy that's going to lift this team to the top of the Western Conference mountaintop. And yet there they are, only like a game and a half out of first place in the West. Tribute to the players that they got, Jalen Green and company. But more than anything else, I think it has a lot to do with Ime Udoka and just his ability to elevate the status of what he's been given to work with. We saw that play out when he was in Boston and in the one season there. We're seeing it play out in Houston. And yes, Houston is looking very much like a problem for teams out West.
Yeah, I mean, Houston is playing good defense, and they got a lot. I mean, they've stacked together talent for a long time now. Sengun, Jalen Green, Torrey Eason, and then they signed Dylan Brooks. And everybody
Sengun is a good player. Sengun might be an all-star this year.
Yeah, he's kind of a poor man's Jokic at this point, and that's not an insult. Like that's not an insult at all.
We all poor man compared to Jokic. So let's be real.
Kind of Jokic. And then you got guys, Dylan Brooks. Everybody was like, "Oh, why would you sign that dude to $80 million deal coming off Memphis?" He's been a glue guy for him defensively. Fred VanVleet. They paid him. Houston knew they were going to have to overpay guys to come there. They did. And now they're coming together. And obviously, Ime, you knew he was going to put that team together defensively. He was not going to have them soft. He was going to have them push guys around. So you talk about a quality young team. The question is, can they be consistent? I watched the game against Milwaukee where they blew a lead. They still don't have shooters. Like, that's the thing. They need another shooter because Milwaukee came back because they were like, okay, Dylan Brooks, take threes. He missed 2. Like, Fred VanVleet took like a 30-footer. That missed. Like, they still need like that quality shooter who can just knock down threes late in games. They need a money player. But for me, like, I tend to think that like they'll be fine. They'll obviously make the playoffs. They'll be a factor. But I think maybe if you win the first round, I just think they're a little bit still green to where you're talking about, they're going to make the conference finals or anything like that. I think they just need a little bit more experience and they need a shooter. But for what they're doing, I'm impressed with. Obviously, you knew Udoka was going to put together that team. He was going to get rid of the guys that he needed to get rid of. He was going to make some guys work on being better defenders. And they what they've done is they just gathered through the lottery, Jabari Smith. They've put together a lot of just young guys who are now playing better.
Yeah. And Gary, to your point, it'll be interesting to see what Houston does when we get closer to the trade deadline, because you're right. You look at the way their team is composed. They have 2 things going for them. They have a core group that's playing hard, playing Udoka-style basketball. And 2, they've got some disposable assets that they can move on elsewhere and get them a shooter. And there are going to be shooters made available. In fact, we may be talking about one in a short minute or two. But the Houston is a team that I'm going to be looking at very closely at the trade deadline, because I do think, Garrett, to your point, I think that right now they are good enough to make the playoffs, but they need to make a decision between now and the trade deadline. Do they want to make a move to better position themselves to have a deep playoff run and have a guy that can help get them over past that second round of the playoffs and maybe to the conference finals where anything can happen? Or are they content on simply having a roster that is good enough to get to the playoffs and just roll your dice with those guys, gaining some playoff experience, and then obviously having the focus on trying to win a championship or certainly make a deep playoff run? Maybe that's the 24-25, or excuse me, the 25-26 goal.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, yeah.
I mean, the Rockets are shooting 32% for the season from the three-point line. They do not have Dylan Brooks, in all honesty, is their best three-point shooter.
That should never happen.
Yeah, 39%. Jalen Green, 30%. Sengun, 29%. Van Vliet is not having a good year. 30% from three. Jabari Smith, they need a shooter, okay? Amin Thompson, 29.4. They're not going to win in the NBA and advance far in the playoffs if you cannot shoot from the three-point line. You cannot be one of the worst shooting teams in the league at 32%. Okay, that's terrible.
Terrible. Just terrible.
Just terrible. Like Charles Barkley, terrible. So if you're the Rockets, you have to get some shooters. I'm impressed with the defense. I'm impressed with the young guys. I'm not impressed with the lack of shooting they have, because they are. I mean, to me, they've got to be better than this.
Well, on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have the Washington Wizards. They're last place in the Eastern Conference, 2-13. Are they just bad, or do you two think they're tanking?
They're bad. They're bad. They're not. I mean, I honestly don't think that they are making a strong effort to lose. They're not like the Utah Jazz, who is clearly all in on trying to get that number 1 overall pick, aka the Danny Ainge special. We've seen this movie before. Unfortunately for Danny, it didn't work out quite how he thought. He got a Hall of Famer that year, but it wasn't Tim Duncan. It was actually Chauncey Billups. Actually, that was before Danny, but it was still the Celtics tanking. And even when Danny has tried it, they wound up with the 5th pick. I think it was Jeff Green that year when it was the Greg Oden, was the big guy out there. So bottom line is this: the Wizards are just a bad team in every sense of the word. They've got some interesting pieces that can play, but they don't have a team. They don't seem like there's a structure or an identity or a culture, all the kind of things that when you're trying to build something, you start to see a vision of where this is going. And I just don't see that with Washington. I mean, they look like just a bunch of guys that, decided that, hey, we're going to go to the park and play pickup. And I got you and you. Basically, I got the guys that weren't picked up by the other team that we playing. And then they just go out there and hoop. They've got some good players. I think they have good players. I just don't think they have a good team. And I don't see any structure, identity, culture, any of those things that teams are trying to build. I just don't see it.
Washington's tanking, okay? Like, they have a plan. They need to get another lottery pick on their club. They are just trying to figure out which direction to go at this point. So you've got guys, they took Alex Sarr, okay? You've got Kyle Kuzma, who's probably going to get traded eventually, okay? Jordan Poole, they paid him. Who's going to pay that man another $30 million a year? Or pay
Say no one.
At salary. To me, and you've got a bunch of young guys. You've got Bilal Coulibaly, who's going to be a piece. He's going to be Bub Carrington, Keyshawn George. Like, you've got young pieces, okay? But you're going to have to go young, and they're going to tank. Like, they're going to be bad. That's why, and I said, I like Brian Keefe. He's a local guy from Winchester High School. I've known him since our Seattle days where he was an assistant coach, and I was covering the Sonics back in the day. They brought him back. They didn't want to. You don't want to go and spend $5 trillion on a head coach when the team is going to tank. They brought him back to just try to develop these guys, develop them, try to get the winning habits. And it's hard when you're losing, but try to get these guys to get to the next level. Then you bring in another lottery pick, you clear some cap space, and hopefully Washington can get a free agent. The problem with Washington did years ago is they saved all their shippers for Kevin Durant, thinking Kevin was going to want to come back. He's from PG County. He wanted to come back to the DMV, and Kevin didn't even meet with it was 2016. When he, maybe we went to the Hamptons to meet with Tom Brady and the Patriots. The Patriots, Tom Brady and the Celtics, but he ended up obviously signing with the Warriors. But they thought they had a shot at KD. And
they did have a shot. It's called no shot. But keep going.
They had max money, and they saved it. And Kevin was like, I have no interest in playing for the Wizards. So the Wizards are going to have to try to get a free agent. They're going to have to overpay. They're going to have to do what Houston did. Houston's the blueprint. After Harden left, people's like, why am I going to go to Houston and lose? Great city. I'm sure I'll enjoy myself, but I ain't trying to lose every night, right? Houston's not considered a great sports town or whatever. It's got its teams and whatever, but So what did Houston have to do? Play Dylan Brooks, pay Fred VanVleet, and now you got them with the young guys. Washington's going to have to do the same thing. Develop these young guys. They're going to have to fall before and crawl before they walk. And then next year, try to bring in another, if it's Cooper Flagg or Ace Bailey or one of these top guys, bring him in, and then you've got a core. Now you try to go after somebody in free agency. So they are tanking, okay? Washington does not want to win ball games. They want to compete. They want to do like they did to the Celtics. Oh, we almost won. We fought hard. The kids showed the principles. That's what they're trying to do because it's no reason for them to win and get an 8th or 9th overall pick. They need the number 1 or 2 pick. They need a franchise player. Alex Sarr, don't like what I see so far.
Role player.
The kid from the Hawks, the number 1 pick, to me, he's got much more upside and talent. But we'll see what Sarr does. But they're tanking, folks. Don't be fooled. They're not. They're bad and they're tanking.
All right, before we get into our last thing, I have to give a shout out to my dad who's been silently warming up his food because today is his birthday. And
Happy birthday, Pops.
Biggest basketball fans I know. So
my favorite grade school team.
Thank you.
My favorite grade school team in New Jersey.
Happy birthday.
It's your birthday. It's your birthday. It's your birthday.
Right, don't do that, Sherrod.
My twin. You have to put your head right here. There he is.
Happy birthday, sir.
Happy birthday, sir. Happy birthday.
All right, give it up.
All right, I'll let you go.
She said, I get out my shot now.
I know, right?
Wow, you said it to your own father?
No, because he was trying to leave, and I was like, no, I want to do this.
Gary, he was trying to linger. You know what? Now we know where Kwani get it from. She sure don't like to leave that camera, boy. I tell you right now. I know what she gets. She get it from her daddy.
All right.
Okay.
Finally, Chris Middleton is a person that you mentioned. Might be ready to move on from Milwaukee. Houston, like you said, could be a viable option. Is that a possibility? Do you think him and the Bucks are going to cut the cord?
I don't think there's much of a choice at this point. I mean, Milwaukee, they're really evaluating everything about their roster, figuring out what's working, what's not working, what can we move on from, what can we, really dig into. And Middleton is a guy that, as much as he's been injured of late and just not impactful, when he has been able to play, the one thing he does and does at a high level, the Celtics know this firsthand, is he can knock down shots. And I just think that he needs a team that has a good amount of athleticism that will allow him to get great looks at the basket that don't require him to necessarily create his own shot. I thought the last 2 or 3 years when he has been healthy, he's shown the ability to be a better shot creator than he showed earlier in his career. But he's just at a point now where, physically speaking, I just don't see that in his game. I think he's going to be more of a catch and shoot guy going forward at this point. And he needs to be in situations that take advantage of his shot making and don't necessarily force him to be much of a shot creator. I think Houston could be that type of team. And as I mentioned earlier, Houston's got so much talent on that squad. Some of it is not getting anywhere close to the kind of burn and run that they would elsewhere. And when you look at Milwaukee, they need some type of infusion of youth. They need some, not just young talent, but talent that just, yeah. And so I Houston's got some players that they could potentially, put on the table that Milwaukee might be intrigued by. I think it becomes a win-win, I think, for both teams if they're able to do some deal that gets Middleton in a situation where he can still play for a really good team and have a significant role without necessarily having to carry a similar weight that he's going to have to carry when he gets back to Milwaukee. And for the Bucks, you're trying to figure out a way to kind of crack through and be one of those top 3, top 4 teams in the East and be able to sustain your position there. You know what you're getting with Giannis. Dame, I think, is starting to kind of get a feel for what he needs to do, but you need that third piece. And right now, no disrespect to Bobby Portis, who I love, but if he's your third best player, you're probably not going to win a championship.
And then we all win when they play the Celtics in the NBA Finals, and we get the coaching rivalry.
Facts.
The reunion game.
Facts.
Big picture.
Facts. Facts. Kwani done zoomed past the first round, second round, conference finals.
To the end zone.
Damn, Gary.
Not pick up 200. Just
what you got, Gary? What you think?
I mean, I don't know why the Middleton's hasn't shown he could be healthy. I don't know why the Rockets would go after him.
They need shooting. You think they can get better shooting?
Yeah, but he's not proven he can be healthy. He got to play. I mean, he's apparently close to coming back. He's got a player option next year at $34 million. You never know what guys do nowadays with these player options because Chris Middleton's not getting $34 million on the open market. So you would think he would opt in, but guys now do anything to, you never know what they do with these opt-ins. Sometimes they'll just take, less money, but for more years. But I think Milwaukee's going to try to hold on and see what they have with their current core, right? You got Giannis and Dame. Lopez is not having a great year so far. Bobby Portis is not having a great year. Connaughton's getting old. They need to get younger, but how do you get younger? You can't get younger during the season. You got to get younger in the draft, right? So to me, Milwaukee's kind of stuck, but what are they going to do? How are they going to facilitate a deal for the $30 million on Chris Middleton's contract this year, right? That's going to have to they're going to have to give – Houston would have to give up probably somebody they don't want to give up to facilitate that deal for a player who hasn't shown over the last few years he could be healthy. So I just don't see that. I'm looking at the Houston – okay, does Milwaukee want Steven Adams and Jeff Green? You know what I'm saying? Like the elderly crew, do they want that? Like, does Milwaukee want to get older? They do not want to get older, right? Milwaukee's trying to win this year, so it's got to facilitate. It's got to make sense for Milwaukee, and so they have to get young. So to me, I don't think there's any chance. I think Middleton is stuck in Milwaukee because I just think his market value is low. I think at the trade deadline, when Houston will try to find a quality shooter on a bad team or guys looking, and they have enough young talent, the Cam Whitmores, to trade for, let's say, that quality shooter that's going to get them over the top. So I would not count on Chris Middleton going to the Houston Rockets.
Okay.
There you have it. Well, before we close, it is the week of Thanksgiving. What are you two thankful for?
I'm thankful for all this beautiful weather and sunshine that I'm getting to enjoy here in beautiful California, and I'm
That's
thankful
the wrong
for.
answer.
And I'm thankful. Oh, see, Kwani, you didn't let me tag it out. You didn't let me tag it out. See, what I was about to say was I'm also thankful for you two.
Hey.
And just some of the things that just being able to have these conversations with you guys and just talk to the people. It's good. It's a good feeling. I enjoy having this time together every week. Despite Gary getting on my damn nerves sometimes, I still, man, this is what we do, man. This is y'all family, so this is a good time. So I'm thankful for both of y'all.
That's real.
Definitely thankful for both of you guys, even Sherrod, for good health, family, just being around, still being here on this earth is a blessing in itself. Every day somebody seems like we used to, some, celebrity or somebody we knew, or you look on Facebook now and it's like, okay.
Every day people drop
every day it's somebody, parent or friend or something, and they didn't make it, they're going to heaven. And unfortunately it's sad, but it's part of life, I guess. But I'm just blessed to be here, blessed to have, unfortunately, Sherrod, but you two, Kwani too, more Kwani than Sherrod. But the podcast, and I'm trying to figure out like that fake background. I don't see one person moving in that background.
Oh my God.
Like not
Wait, no one's moved this entire time, and he's probably jumping in.
That's because I am on my patio.
He's pumping in YouTube videos of children having fun.
I see one person move in 38
Oh my
minutes.
goodness, you're right.
I can move the camera and show y'all people moving. If you need to see people moving.
Where?
You see people moving?
Okay, I see one person.
I don't see nobody moving.
Fish?
Where? Who moving?
No.
Nobody.
You don't see the dude in the red shirt.
I see the guy in the pool.
Look at the pool.
Okay, there's one person moving.
No, he was right though. There wasn't anyone moving for the last
39
minutes.
How y'all know if I told him to stop? I'm taking
I got the AI thing going.
Yeah, you do know I have pretty high status in marriage. You know that, right?
Yeah, right.
So I'm just saying.
Travel.
What you thankful for, Kwani Lupe?
Yeah, I'm grateful for you too as well. I'm grateful for life. I'm grateful for us being able to just like really live out our dreams, but also, like you said, being every day on this earth is a blessing. So, and having family around, I'm excited to be home for Thanksgiving and really just soak in on my family. So I'm grateful, definitely very grateful. A year of gratefulness.
One more shout out to Pops. Happy birthday. My man.
Happy birthday, Dad.
My man.
My guy.
Best teacher in Jersey.
He really is. I don't know why. How is he dealing with it? If you have children in New Jersey, he's probably dealing with them.
Man, dealing with them kids during the pandemic, and it was like, what, kindergarten to first grade? He teaches one of them.
Yeah, it varies. Kindergarten to 3 sometimes.
I can't.
Specifically, students that come from Haiti that are trying to learn
English and all their subjects. Pop's good people, man. That's great work he does. Great work.
Teachers more.
In the words of our friend Jason Jones, buck them kids.
Or that.
This is what I hate about Gary. I can't.
Shout out to Jason Jones for the Athletic. Buck them kids.
But once again, we do want to thank Prize Picks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of CLNS Media Network. Also, shout out to our good friends at Game Time, which take the guesswork out of buying last-minute tickets to your favorite sporting events. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use that code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Sherrod Blakely, Gary Washburn. I'm Kwani Lunis. Thank you for listening. And also, if you watched this far, put in the comments below, what are you grateful for this week? We'll be back next week.